My name's Nick Agnetti with Ascendia USA. With great pride, I'd like to introduce today's two speakers. We've got Jack Gray and Paul Chambers, and we will be discussing the fireside track titled LeBron James, Lindsey Vonn, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Cindy Crawford Walk into a Room. So put it together for our two speakers today. Thank you.
I picked my own walk-up music. Good morning. I'm Paul Chambers with SUBTA and SubSummit, here with my special guest, Jack Gray from Ladder, formerly with Ladder, but we're going to be talking about that today. Pleasure to have you, room. Thank you for being here. I hate to break it to you, but Lindsey, Arnold, LeBron, and Cindy are not here today. They're not going to walk into the room as much as we'd like that to happen right now. It was just tough to arrange.
Yeah.
Travel schedules, things like that.
But
Let's start with that. What happens when they do walk in the room together? And did you ever get an opportunity to have them all in the room together?
yeah. So first and foremost, thank you guys for coming here at 10:05 a.m. after a killer after party and award ceremony. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak to everyone. Subscription is hard. It's really, really hard. So a big kudos to everyone in this room. It really is a labor of love, and someone that came from a very large company in my former life at Adidas. A lot of people try to figure it out, so kudos to everyone here. They walk in the room and people take notice. Easy as that.
So let's take a step back to when you started, when this concept was born for Ladder. Was it starting with the celebrities, or was it starting with the product and then find some celebrities to endorse it? Because I think, maybe people look at a celebrity-backed subscription box and say, gosh, that's easy. All they have to do is post to Instagram and this is going to grow. What was the foundation for this, and then how did that evolve?
Yeah, so the story behind Ladder took place about 2.5 years ago, and probably even further than that. When LeBron James was playing for the Miami Heat, he had massive cramping in his body. And this is a guy that spends over $1 million a year on his body. So there's a massive team surrounding him that allows him to be LeBron James. And at that point in time in the playoffs, I think they were playing I'm blanking on who they were playing at that time. But he was basically paralyzed. He couldn't go out and play, and he was cramping really badly. So in that off season, he retooled his diet. He started doing paleo, and then he became vegan, and he started doing all these different things. And he couldn't find what he wanted on the market in terms of supplementation. He just couldn't find it. So they actually went out and made their own product. And then flash forward a few years, Arnold Schwarzenegger had a deal with another supplement company that didn't work out. So they saw some problems that existed in the marketplace, and like brands, they wanted to solve a problem for their consumers. They decided that they wanted to get together. I was brought in coming from Adidas, where I was kind of two major roles. I was the head of product creation for basketball for a ton of years, and then I was the head of North America basketball. So I have a lot of brand experience, but a lot of consumer-centric thinking and very big difference on companies versus brands. And we wanted to come in and approach this as a brand. The health and wellness industry, for the most part, is predicated on fear. It's predicated on habits. Fixing habits is not sustainable. It's not. We felt that taking a brand approach and bringing people together could change behaviors. And that was kind of our biggest crux, is how do we allow people to be healthier? How do we allow people to have access to information, and not only products, to help change those behaviors and allow people to be healthier? Our whole mantra was life is a workout. It wasn't about 1 hour of the day. It's more about the holistic point of view on health and wellness.
So what came first then, Ladder, or did the celebrities all come together, and did you build this around the celebrities?
It really did start with them, to be honest. They're not spokespeople. They are founders. Gift and curse. Sometimes it's an embarrassment of riches in terms of having so many people that have been so iconic their entire careers. Arnold has gone from being a bricklayer to a bodybuilder to a massive actor and then a politician. Cindy Crawford has been an icon forever, and continues to be someone that actually is in this subscription economy with meaningful beauty. So we had people that have a lot of experience with brands, understanding how to market themselves. So it really did start with them. It did start with Arnold and Lebron. And then they said, hey, there's this opportunity, let's build a brand. And I think that's just, it wasn't like we got a bunch of people in a room and said, hey, we want to build supplements, and who can we find out there, and how can we tick the boxes of direct-to-consumer, e-commerce, subscription, basically get off, all the kind of pop, culture references on, who these celebrities are, and then, find a product. It didn't really work that way.
I saw a great Instagram post the other day from Arnold that, he's talking about the powder and making his morning protein shake. He's like, then I take the powder and I mix in, and he grabs a bottle of schnapps and pulls out the cork with his mouth and pours schnapps in his morning protein drink. And, it's just, amazing that he's open and honest about that kind of stuff. But let's take it, along those lines, what is the difference between a spokesperson and a founder? Because you said they are founders, they're not spokespeople. So what's the difference there?
Yeah, I think for us it's the approach. It's very much authentic to who they are. And I think it wasn't trying to retrofit product and, founder or celebrity. There's a lot of companies right now that are direct-to-consumer companies, and then they say, we need to get someone to push this. And that just really wasn't the case here. They had input in everything, and kind of as the CMO, my job is to kind of corral everyone's vision and really solidify that into one point of view. Was
that tough with them?
It's tough in the respect of they were involved, and they all have very different points of view and very different needs. LeBron is one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and he's still playing. So, actually having product that was safe and worked was critical to him. In the supplement space, there isn't a lot of regulation. In some respects, there's none. So LeBron actually couldn't take our product until we actually went to production. He was behind the formulations and kind of everything else, but unless you're NSF for sport certification, you're technically not in compliance with WADA or some of the other anti-doping agencies. So he couldn't even take the product that was really tailored for him because he could potentially have something that wasn't in, kind of in compliance. So he was very much focused on, is this going to work? What are the right types of things? What's the research that goes into this product to make it work? Arnold has a legacy in terms of being in the bodybuilding space and really understanding what works for his body and what works for other people and how he can help people in terms of motivating them, to actually move. It's one thing to have a product, it's another thing to have people use the product and continue to use that. Our whole approach was, how do we kind of merge in content, community, and product to take a brand approach rather than saying, here's a person, here's a product, just take it. We don't care if you churn off, we'll just continue to go off this acquisition model, and we'll have a big head start with these celebrities. We didn't feel that that was a sustainable model, and regardless of whether you had celebrities or not.
So as a founder versus a spokesperson, you write them a check, get them to drop a couple Instagram posts, whatever it may be, and if things go sideways with that celebrity, you stop using them as a spokesperson. As a founder, I would assume that's different because they're attached to the brand.
Yeah.
Is there risk with that? Is there risk with having a celebrity as a founder of a company?
Yeah, I think you're playing with house money. To be honest, this is their company. I like to say I work for the consumer, but I do work for them as well. So they all bring very different, points of view to the brand, but they are very much involved. They didn't want to come in and kind of necessarily be the face of it, for the long haul. They wanted to build a brand and have that be more of a sustainable business over time where they could step away and they could focus behind the scenes. I've lived through spokespeople. I was at Adidas, and I've had athletes that are spokespeople, and you build a brand around them, something can go sideways, and all of a sudden your business can torpedo. I had an amazing business with Derrick Rose. He goes down with a massive knee injury, and we can't sustain that business overall. And we have to, find different kind of avenues to build that brand in other countries. It is very dangerous. But I think with our model was they have such iconic history in the health and wellness space or in culture that we can use them as authenticators, as Trojan horses in the beginning, but ultimately it was never about them, so they can go back, kind of in the background.
Yeah. So now I assume with using celebrities as part of the brand, out of the gate, there's a lot of really low acquisition costs associated with that because they're posting to their social feeds, their blog, wherever it may be. How long does that last for, and then what do you do from there?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is it's nice. It's a head start. I mean, a lot of people in this space seem like they've popped up overnight. There's Vital Proteins, which is amazing, and they've been around for years. Vega, it seems like a lot of companies just all of a sudden blow up overnight, and it takes a long time. They allowed us, completely just an overnight head start. I think between all of them, they have like 60 million Instagram followers. So, you get that head start, but the reality is, after that kind of initial pop of like announcing they're part of something, unless they're really posting, it is really hard to have that association and to just say, hey, this is something that we're going to continue to turn on. Every single time we post, we're going to sell. I mean, I think everyone in here understands how expensive acquisition costs are and how an algorithm can change and completely screw up everything. I mean, you may follow LeBron James, but if he's posting several different times a day because of who he is, and he decides to do a post versus a story, it can completely get lost. So it's not necessarily, that you can just have one follower, one sale. It doesn't work that way. And I think our point was, let's build a brand, let the brand stand on its own. Let's make that a place that people want to come back to. They want to learn about how they can be healthier, and that be something that could be a part of their day-to-day life, and then kind of have these peaks and valleys where we could then pop in, a post here and there that could, potentially break through a little bit more.
So building on that, where do you see the greatest opportunities in marketing right now? With a variety of different marketing channels out there, we see Facebook CACs rising. Snapchat isn't really panning out to be as good of a channel as I think people initially hoped. And there hasn't been much more evolving, since then as a new marketing channel. Where do you see the greatest opportunity to grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think, how do people start to think less of, I see a lot of companies that are companies. They're not brands, and they're very much focused on, buying consumers and focusing on, traditional channels. That's really hard. And then they decide at some point that they want to get into different verticals, and they all of a sudden say, hey, brand is important. A lot of people just focus on acquisition, and they very much focus on, what that's going to cost. I think the future is this idea of, really kind of taking the digital world in real life. It's going to go back to, actually talking to your consumers and having those tribes out there that you understand, and really kind of getting back into real life. And I know that's challenging, but there's a lot of companies that started that way. They bootstrapped, they were out doing demos, they were talking to people. A lot of respect, it is that word of mouth, and I think there is starting to be a backlash against technology, and in some respects, some of these big companies are having to curtail, some of the ways that they're bringing themselves into your life. I think that's the change. I think people want personal connection, and I think making sure that you have some great content on your site, if that's applicable. Obviously, SEO takes time, but I do think that's something that, coupled with a focus on brand and getting in, actually talking to people, I think will make a big difference.
So you believe in content marketing?
I very
Everybody should.
focused on.
You should believe in content marketing. What?
That was my second hire after my head of product was a head of content. So Adam Bornstein, has written several New York Times bestsellers, is editor at Livestrong, was editor at Men's Health. We really focused on content. that was really kind of the underpinning on how we keep people there and change behaviors. We have Lebron's trainer, we have Cindy Crawford's trainers and nutritionists. We have access to all these people. In a lot of respects, how are you engaging people? How are you rewarding them? How are you educating them? We felt that content was very critical to us because we knew people would actually build businesses over having access to these people. So if we could offer them that coupled with product, that really is something that's a unique selling proposition in our space.
What was one of the best pieces of content that you put out, or maybe one of the most successful, short-term and long-term?
Yeah, I'll kind of bucket it. In terms of viral, we actually had Arnold in our office doing customer service. So it was...
How do you do at it?
We actually called someone from Spartanburg, South Carolina. So between the two accents, and we had it on speakerphone, it was very hard to understand.
Okay.
But that really, really picked up, on social. I would say from a content point of view, we had a whole thing about the kind of the myths behind fat loss, because fat loss is kind of one of the pillars in the health and wellness space, and actually talking about what there isn't a magic pill and kind of what is on the market or what the approaches are and how to kind of debunk that and focus on kind of the, more of the traditional, kind of things that we do know. That was really successful in terms of getting reposts. We had Arnold do an op-ed through CNN, and then we reposted that through our site. So that kind of, opportunity to cross-post was really important for us as well.
When you were building those posts out, were you building them out with an SEO focus or like a BuzzFeed-like focus? So let's give a poppy headline that we know people are maybe going to want to read, or let's look at some long-tailed keywords here and really try and dominate this one category from an SEO side.
Yeah, I mean, we always focus on the long term. I mean, I think that's a very big benefit of these people not being spokespeople, is they're founders and they've been with brands for a long time. So they are very much focused on long-term value and taking a brand approach. We came out the gate and said we want to focus on reason to believe and then go into reason to buy. So that's why a lot of the focus now will be on the acquisition kind of paid side. But yeah, I mean, we focused on how do we build up SEO? I mean, Adam is amazing in terms of understanding that component and what those keywords are. And having come from that space, he understood how to optimize that. But I think everything we do is, I think we obviously want them to be viral. We want them to have a quick hit, but the focus is always on long term.
Yeah. Now, shifting for a moment to looking at the subscription box economy as a whole, what are your thoughts on it? Where do you feel it's headed? Do you feel, what your experience in building Ladder, what do you see as the future of the subscription box economy? Yeah,
I mean, I think, again, kind of our focus on changing behaviors and more of a long-term approach was why subscription made a lot of sense. And as a marketer, really feeling that it was important to have that connection with the consumer and have that feedback loop was really important for us. And I think the future of it is, really how do you change a subscriber mindset into a membership mindset? I think the brands that look in that respect and understand that they need to reward their consumers and they need to hear them and they need that feedback to allow them to potentially move into different verticals or, to augment their, their boxes in a different way, I think is critical. I don't think you can necessarily just offer them the same thing, month or quarter after quarter.
So you looked at your subscribers as members, not subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, we used I think we kind of toyed with the name subscribers and members, and I think our ambition and will continue to will be focusing on how do we move to more of a true membership, because I think people have more of an association with added value on a membership and a little bit of that exclusivity and being able to have the access and content and how we could tailor that to that audience. I think that really is the future of it. And I don't think necessarily the name subscription will ever go away, but I don't think people necessarily have an affinity for Amazon as a subscription, Prime. It's like that's just almost kind of a given now. But I think from what I've seen and, just listening to last night, I think a lot of people are already doing memberships. I mean, they're focusing on emotions, they're focusing on experiences, and to me, that's a step in the right direction.
So did you ever explore using and leveraging the celebrities that were involved in the box from the membership standpoint, and is getting experiences with them, or if you're a member, you'd be entitled to maybe an exclusive meet and greet or anything like that? Was that ever part of your marketing strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've only been in the market since November, so we are very much in the infancy. But yeah, I think the idea of you have to have enough consumers that you have that data point, so you really understand who's buying your product, and then we can start to tailor, hey, this is really an Arnold fan that buys this type of product. How do we tailor the content around Arnold fans? How do we provide the added value? How do we use him as, in a lot of respects, a coach or the people that are a part of his life? I think that's really the focus. I mean, you know, people think brand marketers are there just to waste money and spend money, and I've definitely heard that for a long, long time, and that's why there's a lot of focus on performance and digital marketing. I think you have to focus on them both at the same time. You have to focus on the emotional connection of what are the values of your brand, and not necessarily focusing so much on lookalike audiences and interests, because that is so predicated on trends. But the values and what your brand represents will always kind of be there. And I think even if people churn off, if your product's great and you have that opportunity to continue to connect with them on more of a kind of a value base, I think they'll come back to you.
So if you had to do it all over again, would you launch a subscription box with celebrities as founders?
100%. I wouldn't say it's the easiest approach. The easiest approach would have been, we're going to Amazon, bodybuilding.com, and Walmart. And at Walmart, we're going to have an end cap with Arnold or Cindy or Lebron or Lindsey. That would have been the easiest approach. But again, we wanted to focus on having an emotional connection, changing behaviors versus habits, and not kind of showing up as the Avengers. We're also not going to necessarily say that we want to be the cool brand that's broke, because that's not cool. So, you know, I think subscription does allow a lot of opportunity to do some things differently. Obviously, you know, it is a more profitable model, but I think we would 100% continue to do that, because the focus on consumer and helping them change their behaviors really lends itself to subscription.
So I know you recently left Ladder. What's next for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just left, and I don't know, I've been spending a lot of time with my 3.5-year-old daughter.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm definitely interested in a lot of the boxes I saw last night in terms of arts and crafts. Yeah, I think what's different for me is I came from a very, very massive company for 13 years, and I was a part of a brand and part of a large brand in that respect.
With Adidas?
Yeah, with Adidas. And I love this startup world. I mean, the speed, the danger, the accountability.
Does your wife love you being in the startup world?
My wife does not love being in the startup world.
You said all those keywords are that my wife doesn't like: the danger,
Yeah.
the accountability.
Yeah, I think my daughter would love it more if I went and worked for a kids brand. Yeah, but I think the future for me is, you know, right now I'm doing some consulting and advising, and I've actually been working with PR agencies on teaching them how to be brands, and to change the mindset of being servicing and be more of collaborative, and how do they brand themselves. I've been doing that for, you know, a few months, which has been amazing. Ultimately, I would like to go join another brand, and I think people that understand the importance of that and how they can necessarily, you know, complement the performance side. I don't think it's binary. I don't think you're performance only and then brand. I think you have to do them concurrently, and I think at some point you can't be a company masquerading as a brand. I think the consumer will sniff that out very quickly. So, you know, I think the future for me will be on the brand side, being a part of building something, and whether that's from scratch or, you know, continuing to take a company in maybe a different direction.
So keeping an eye on time and the clock,
Yep.
because usually I'm the guy that's running the clock and got to respect the clock. And Nick Ignetti
Yep.
telling me we have 1 minute left. Let's finish with this. Out of all the subscription boxes you've seen here and met and looking at the front porch, which one has intrigued you the most, and or which have you found kind of most interesting or enjoyed chatting with even?
Yeah, Battle Box. I mean, they're, even though I'm a city slicker, a city folk, yeah, they're doing some really, really cool stuff, and it's so foreign to my life. But kudos to those guys, and I think, kind of seeing what happened last night, I think a lot of people recognize that. But they really do have a focus on, their tribe, and they really understand who their brand is and how to go after that consumer. So I love that singular focus. But, all of them are pretty amazing. But yeah, Battle Box was pretty cool.
Well, props to John Roman and his crew, and they're winners of quite a few awards last night, so obviously well-deserved. That is our time. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much, Jack, for participating in this panel, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. I'm around if anyone wants to chat offline. Thank you guys very much for having me.
Thank you.